Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Influence to Income podcast. We're your hosts. If you can't see me, I'm kind of pointing at us, Haley and Doug. And the purpose of this podcast is to help influencers grow their personal brands and make passive income through online courses. And I said it last week. I'm going to say it again next week.
Stop with that, Doug.
We're super pumped
You're
about
killing
this
me.
episode. I know Haley hates the cringe. I'm all about it. But seriously, this time we're getting into the nitty-gritty. We're going to be talking about courses, and we're going to be talking about the things that we learned, and we're going to teach you guys the mistakes that we made so you don't have to make them, which is kind of the beauty of this. This is why people do these things. This is why people have courses, is so that you can learn from the mistakes that we've made. But before we jump into those mistakes, before we jump into the teachings that we have, the very actionable teachings that we have for you today, it's here. Okay, it's not here. It's not today. Maybe not happening. I don't know the exact time that this podcast is going to be going up, but the Influencer Course Accelerator is going to be open within the next 24 to 48 hours.
Yes, Doug. And
maybe.
what is that for anyone that just stumbled upon us?
So anyone that may have just come in here, we have a coaching program that is designed to be able to help influencers clarify their offer, to be able to figure out what they're going to be able to sell, actually create their course, and then automate their process. So what they can do is they can make passive income online with an online course.
Yeah, so it truly is from A to Z. And I know I'll get this question, but I'm not necessarily an influencer. I have, 500 people following me or 1,000. It doesn't matter. I mean, if you look at any of the videos that I put out on my YouTube channel, we have students hitting their first 10K month with 1,000 followers or less, a lot less. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it doesn't matter. We use the word influencer because everybody influences someone if you have a social media presence. Yeah.
And the difference is with our program, Haley really was the influencer. Obviously, I'm not the pretty face of the influencing industry. So, but our program comes with experience of people that are influencers or who, speak primarily through people online through social media. And that's kind of where our expertise comes in, is to be able to help people, like Haley said, no matter what audience size you're at. So you could be 500,000 subs, you could be 500 subs. No matter what, we will help you to find an offer, create your program, and then automate it.
Yes.
And so if you're interested in that, if it's not live yet, if we're not accepting students yet, head over to influencercourseaccelerator.com and get on the wait list so you know that it's going to be coming. And if it's going to be launching in a few days, you'll get some emails about it. You'll learn how to apply. And, we'll actually call you and talk to you if we see.
We will literally talk to you on the phone.
Yes. Yeah. So, but don't just use this as an excuse. There's going to be some criteria here in order for us to be able to get a phone call. You're not just going to get to talk to me for no reason.
That wouldn't
be fun.
Although you
might
anyways.
like that. No, it wouldn't be that fun. I'd probably just scold you.
What?
And you wouldn't like that. Yeah. But okay, enough of that. Influencercourseaccelerator.com. Go over there. Go get on the wait list. Get ready. If you're looking to do a course, this is your time. Take. That's not even a risk, okay? Just take action now and get it done. But let's get into these 5. Is it 5? I'm going to say 5, but I might change by the end of this podcast. Big mistakes and learnings that we talked about with doing our online courses.
Yeah, so we wanted to talk about mistakes because we want to help you guys avoid the very painful things that we went through. And not only just painful things, but the things that cost us thousands and thousands of dollars, and all the things that I look back on and shake
hundreds of hours, thousands of dollars.
Hundreds of thousands of dollars, actually. Yeah. So we're going to be talking about that and being very raw, like I always say, and transparent with numbers as much as we can. And we're going to basically not sugarcoat anything and talk about all the failures that we've made. It's going to be a fun one, but I feel like if I could shout anything from the rooftops as far as online courses, don't do these things. Basically,
it's either going to be don't do these things or do these things we didn't do. Something like that. Yeah.
So the very first one, I guess I'll go ahead and start off, but it's basically, and I feel like you guys should know this by now if you've listened to any of the podcasts, but it's not starting soon enough. So I know I've mentioned this in a podcast, but basically, when I had the idea to do my first online course, which is teaching people how to grow and make money from YouTube, since I was a full-time YouTuber, I literally sat on the idea for 6 months, and then it took me 6 months to actually create the course. So it was a year of making $0 from online courses, because obviously that was a choice, and I was scared.
Had the idea. When the idea was already there.
Yeah. So it took me 6 months to be I'm not good enough. I suck. Honestly, I don't have 100,000 views on each video. Yes. I don't even want to really do this. Like, you know, honestly.
Don't even really want to do it.
Yeah. And so honestly, if it wasn't for Doug being like, you just have to do it anyways, I would not be here at all. So it took me 6 months of mulling around the idea, which I know a lot of you guys are in that situation right now. Because I get DMs on Instagram, both my accounts being like, I want to do it, but I don't have a big enough presence. And I hope you guys will overcome that, you know, feeling if you listen to our podcast, or, you know, I'm not an expert or anything, and all the things that we've talked about. You know, that will take you 6 months of getting over it. Like, honestly, and doing it anyways.
And what really hurts is seeing the success that we have now and then thinking, well, if we started when Haley said she wanted to start, when she first had that idea, we could have been having this level of success 8 months ago.
Yeah.
And,
or a year.
Or a year earlier. And then where would we be at now?
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Like, where could we be? Like, with this hockey stick growth that we've had. And hockey stick, by the way, is when you, in a very short amount of time, you go super, super high because it looks like the shape of a hockey stick. It's just, it blows your mind to think, like, how much money have I lost? Because that's effectively what it's like. You've lost
opportunity
money.
cost.
Yes, you've lost money by not jumping on that feeling or that action that you had to get started.
Yes. And like I said, you know, you can go and watch the videos on my YouTube channel where I interview students that have tiny audiences. And they said all of the same things that you guys are probably thinking, you know, I'm too small or whatever, like I'm not good enough.
I don't have enough people.
And they were the ones that fought through it, and they're making more money now than they were like ever. And a lot of them are just stay-at-home moms that haven't had a quote unquote a real job, although being a mom is a freaking job. It's harder than anything. You know, they haven't had a quote unquote real job. A lot of them don't have, you know, like full-on college degrees. None of that matters. Those are just excuses. And they are making, like, they've replaced their corporate income and all these crazy things with tiny audiences. So yeah, you can't think like that.
Yeah,
and
don't think
you gotta start.
You shouldn't be waiting for something to happen.
No, nothing's gonna magically happen. You're not gonna wake up being an expert. You just have to start with the knowledge that you have now. And if you can't charge $1,000, who cares? Just start with charging $100. You know.
Yep. And so, kind of related to our next point, which is, you know, once you decide, you're like, you know what, I'm gonna start it. I'm gonna get started on this, and I'm gonna do it. One of the biggest mistakes we made, which I just laugh at myself nowadays when I think about it, is that we created our entire damn course before we sold it. Yes. And you don't want to do that. That was the mistake we made, was we spent months, like 6 months making a course, not making any money, but instead building the course before we sold it.
We were like, I was so excited though, once I got over the fact that I'm just going to do it. I was like, oh, this is exciting. You know, I'm going to plan my modules, like module 1 through module 8.
And we're going to record it. We spent our time recording it.
I want to have
editing
cool videos.
It, and I edited, and then we wanted to have these effects and all these downloadable print out sheets and stuff like that.
So there are two really big reasons as to why you don't want to create your course up front. Number one is the obvious one. You know, creating a course doesn't actually make you money. And just because you spend 6 months, and you guys know this, you know, if you sit on something for 6 months, you're all scared for 6 months thinking, oh, I don't know if this is going to sell. This is going to be a waste of my time. Therefore, you don't do it anyways, because you assume it's going to take you so long, and it really doesn't have to. But honestly, something that I learned, which is more down to like ethics, is the fact that you don't want to create a course from a place of bias. And you actually want to create a course alongside your students. It's more beneficial to your students' results if you create, Doug's going to talk about what drip feeding is in a minute. I know it's all jargon, but if you create a module right alongside your students going through that module, you can immediately make changes and tweak. You don't have to spend like what we did, I think probably the next 3 months after we released it, fixing all of the errors, because honestly, you just can't assume that you're going to create this flawless course. You're going to spend 6 months. It's going to be the best. And just because you've poured your time into it, people are going to see like rapid success. It really has nothing to do with that. You have to implement feedback from your first round of beta testers. And it's just, in my opinion, it's more like the ethical way. A lot of people see it as like, well, what do I do then? So you're telling me to create a course, you know, just like the first module, and then just create module after module, you know, right before my students go through it. And that's actually exactly what we're telling you to do, because it's more beneficial to your students.
Yeah. So this mistake is twofold. Okay. So the first thing is that you're wasting 6 months of time when you could be making money creating your course. And the second thing is that you're creating a program that could be flawed, and you're guessing. And
it is going to be flawed. It's okay.
Yeah, it's always going to be V1, like version 1, then you're going to have version 2 and version 3, and there's always going to be changes. But let's talk about the alternative to that. So option A is doing the mistake that we made, which is making your whole course up front, not selling it, not making money for 6 months, and then having to revise it for the next 3.
Yeah, or
Okay.
however long it takes you to fix all the things.
However long it takes you to fix it. But option B is to basically offer the premise of your course to people, and you don't have to openly sit there and be like, I haven't made this yet, but I'll make it. Don't worry, I'll get it done. You don't have to say anything like that. But what you do is you create, like Haley said, the first week that you know that they can start with, get some feedback, and then you have a plan to second week. Like, it's planned. You're not just like, what am I going to do with this second week? Oh shit, I don't know yet. But what you do is you film it, or you create it based on some of the feedback that you've gotten and the outline that you have that's going. And I think the core piece that we didn't mention here is that you sell it, like the students enroll before you've created everything.
Yeah.
So that way now you are making money as you're creating it, and you're also creating the right things, the things that the students need, and not just what you think they need.
Yeah, because you can assume so many things. You'd be like, well, I would have liked to have this. And all that stuff is great. It's obviously you are an expert in whatever you're doing, even if it's like, just teaching people one step ahead. You're an expert at that one step that they don't have. Yeah. But you still don't understand really what people truly need to get results until you work with actual humans.
Yeah, they need to tell you that. Yeah.
Yeah, and hence why, we talked about in the last podcast episode, I didn't even hardly put in mindset stuff. And then I started working with actual humans, and I realized, none of this analytics for YouTube is going to work until they get over the fear of being on camera.
Yeah.
No. Or the fear of, self-doubt.
Or investing in equipment and spending money and all these other things.
So then I had to go back and spend 3 months, and all of that stuff is totally not necessary in order to, have rapid success with online courses. And also I forgot to mention the biggest reason, in my opinion, that I did not write down, but the biggest reason why you want to just do it, like rip it off like a Band-Aid, sell it before it's ready, only create the first module and then drip feed it. So release a module until like all of them are released, doing it with your students is really because of your mindset. And we talked about this in the last episode, but if you sit on a course idea for more than, I think it's been studied, like 6 weeks, like people can't have a goal longer than 6 weeks. You're just not going to do it. I've talked to my students in multiple, programs, and if they decide not to do the drip feeding route, and if they decide to create it all at once, there's only such a tiny small percentage of people that actually do what they say, because it's just, it's not tangible anymore when you give yourself so much time.
Yeah. And it's like, when you're in college and you went to college or just school or just anything like that, like you have a test or something big that's coming up, you don't prep like 3 weeks in advance or even 6 months in advance.
But that's a tiny small, so that's like a 1% of the class.
Most of the time you stay up for 48 hours and you study the whole 2 days beforehand on whatever exam you're going to take, and that's all that you do.
Yes. So remember those times when you were in school and like, be honest with yourself. Did you actually spend 3 weeks prepping for a test? No, you did it the day before like we did.
Yes.
So it's the same thing with courses. So the third biggest mistake that we made is something that I now look back on and have realized that it actually was a mistake. It took me so long, but it's not hiring a coach before I launched my first product. So we did buy a course. It was like $9.97 teaching us how to create a course. But like I said, that program, and it was great. Like, we've already said, $40,000 in the first 3 days because I had a large audience. I understand all that, but it wasn't really going to get me to the place that I really desired, which was like passive income. So we bought a program that was like how to create modules, how to sell on a sales page, and all that stuff is important. But why are you actually doing this business? Are you doing it just for like a quick influx of cash because you just want to buy a car, or I don't know what your desires are. But if you have a small audience or a large audience, odds are you are trying to pursue, or you're looking to pursue, this income stream because it's passive. You want to spend more time with your family. You want to not have to trade your time for money. And, us choosing not to invest in a coach that would teach us those things really cost us months, not a long time because we did it pretty quickly after that, but it did cost us, months of our life, which is not a lot because we did it pretty quickly after that, but it could have been sooner. Yeah.
And the thing is that, okay, well, let's just make it clear. The mistake that we made was not hiring a coach in time.
Yeah.
Like we should have done that a lot sooner. But what happens is it's kind of like a compounding effect. Okay. Because if you wait 2 to 3 months to hire a coach, then that really pushes back your earnings really like 6 to 8 months.
Yeah.
And then if you push back those earnings 6 to 8 months, then maybe you leveling up the previous version of yourself is now delayed like a year.
Yeah.
And then you getting to the $1 million mark is now delaying not just a year, but it's delayed 18 to 24 months. And it's kind of like that compounding effect. Like the sooner you do things, the better.
Yes.
And that's the mistake that we made, was that we kind of got a do-it-yourself program. And when in reality, like when you're trying to make really big leaps and when you're trying to make really big things happen, like you need that one-on-one personalization, somebody to speak to help you through your specific situation kind of coaching.
Yeah.
And that needs to happen at some point.
Yeah. And I used to assume, like for my whole entire life, that I was going to invest in help or mentorship or whatever after I made money, but that literally does not make sense. And I'm not just saying this, I promise you, because we are coaches ourselves. I mean, you can think whatever you want, but I still take my own advice. We still invest in coaches now before we make money with a new revenue stream or before we pursue a different type of like strategy. Before we make money, because it just doesn't work like that. You can't assume that the information is going to magically pop in your head and then you will poof have money for a coach. Like you have to invest first. That's just business 101.
Yeah. Like,
you know?
like, do you think that you doing the same thing that you're doing now is going to get you enough money to get a coach?
No, because you don't have, you don't know where to
you
look.
don't know how to get to that coach. You don't know how to get to that money. You need the coach to teach you first. So you have to invest the first time that comes through. And like Haley said, we take our own advice. We still get coaches. Like we never think we're the smartest person in the room.
No.
You know, like you can't think that way if you're going to be able to get anywhere. So you can't think that way when you're first starting your course or when you're first starting your program. And when you're, or when you know, whatever it is that you're offering, you can't think that you know the way it is that
or you can Google it.
Man,
like, no
Googling
way.
it, that used to be my thing. You know,
Yeah.
dog, this is free. The internet is a real thing.
Yeah.
Like
I'll
I can
save
find
money.
it. Haley, just be quiet. Give me like 4 hours tonight.
Yeah.
I'm going to drink a Monster or something and I'm going to figure this out. I'm going to Google it and I'll get you a action plan in the beginning of the day. When all of a sudden, like all my stuff's wrong, I was looking up the wrong things. You waste all this time and all you had to do was hire a coach or somebody to tell you because they've had the success.
And they've also made like 5 years of mistakes.
Yeah.
So I am not like everybody wants the get rich quick scheme. I mean, if you go on YouTube right now, it's like make money online, passive income, all the annoying things that we also say. But it's not possible with a DIY. I've never seen someone, and I study success literally like it's, you know, I'm obsessed with it. I read the books, I listen to the podcasts.
All the time, man.
And it's important because you have to know how people that get rapid
She
success.
has to like constantly defend herself.
I know, I do. Seriously. I don't know. I shouldn't. I should stop doing it. Yeah. But you have to study people with success and mimic their patterns. Like we said in the last podcast episode, if you want success. So like ask yourself, do you want the slow route? So then go study the people, honestly, that take, 5 years to make however much money you want to make. It takes them 5 years to make $10,000 passive income, and you're doing exactly what they're doing, then it's going to take you that long. So I study people where it takes them 6 months. It takes them only a year to make $1 million. And you might think, I don't need $1 million. Whatever, if you want to make 10K, it's the same type of strategy. So you have to study people that are where you want to be in the time frame that you want it to take. So influencers traditionally, they look at these really big influencers with huge accounts and they're like, oh, I want 100,000 followers on Instagram. So I'm just going to post the cutesy pictures they do and try and get brand deals. But it actually took them a good 4 years of hardly making any money, or a good 2 years. But just know you're signing up for that. So, I know I'm talking in circles a little bit, but it's the same with hiring a coach. You want to hire someone that they have done it in a rapid time span if you don't want it to take you a couple years.
You need to know their path that they took.
Yeah. So
and generally with coaches, their path is like the path that they took is clear. Like, what path they took, and you can know if that aligns with what it is that you want to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, along those lines, along hiring a coach, we kind of move on to our next point here because we could talk about hiring a coach a lot.
I
could. One of the things that you want to do is not just hiring coaching, but really just hiring help in general.
If you can afford it. Now, I know I say you can afford anything. It's a choice. And I beat that dead, like a dead horse. And I know some people literally can't. Like if you are only making $2,000 a month from your course, you're not in the position to hire someone because you have to pay them in cash. Like I'm not saying to put everything on credit card. I know we mentioned credit card and people are triggered, but I'm not saying that. But hire quicker than you think. And this is definitely something that entrepreneurs are like black or white on. They say don't hire some of them, and then other people say hire super fast. What do you think, Doug?
I don't know.
There's like a fine line.
Yeah, there shouldn't. I mean, there is a gray area. Like it shouldn't be just black and white, because every situation is different. But the truth is that you can do it sooner than you think, and you just can't be scared to do it.
Yeah.
And hiring help isn't just about hiring help for your specific business. It could be anything that frees up time to give you time to do something else. So it could be, a laundry service that comes in and does your laundry.
Cleaning
it could
lady,
be
so you
cleaning
can
people.
work more.
Yeah, so you can work more. It could be babysitter. It could be meal delivery kit, so you don't have to think about cooking all the time, or meal planning. Like maybe you meal plan, and it takes you like 6 hours a week to meal plan, but that extra 6 hours.
Hopefully not.
No.
But the cooking for sure.
But the cooking, no. But I'm just saying, like ordering the food and getting the food and then boxing the food and whatever.
And you're like, I don't have time to do this business, but it's like you're just cooking all week.
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly,
I've been there.
Exactly.
I'm still there.
And so, you want to be able to go through and hire help sooner than you think. Don't think you can run it all yourself the first time.
With your life too. And I
with
think,
your life too.
One of the biggest mistakes we made, or I made really, was, running the course all by myself for a good, I think I want to say 6 to 8 months. And what I mean by that is I did have a substantial audience, so this won't apply to everybody, but I definitely oversold, which was my next mistake, which we'll get to. But I basically told my first round of beta students, I didn't know my self-worth. I thought I wouldn't get any sales because of all the mindset issues. I ended up getting 140 students, and I told them all that I would coach them not individually, but I would do group coaching. So I was the one to literally answer every single question within 24 hours.
Dude, not even me. Haley felt like she had to do it herself, because they invested in Haley. And for
140 people.
Yeah, we're just
I was there doing that every day for hours.
Yes, and that was for 6 months.
I don't regret it, because I learned so much and I helped a lot of people.
Yes.
But that's not something you can take lightly.
No, and you don't want to, man, you don't want to sit there and just think I have to trade all of my time to make this happen.
And this definitely kind of leads me into my next point, which is not valuing your time. So I wasn't going to say this, but I love this phrase. You guys should write it down. It's in my notes on my iPhone too. But your net worth is a reflection of your self-worth. And so that's kind of definitely relates to the last podcast episode about money mindset. But it's the same thing with charging for your first product or any of your products. So if you feel like you're just not good enough, and you have low self-esteem, you think you're not an expert, there are people people doing better things, they're more knowledgeable, teaching the same type of thing, and you're just not good enough, then you're going to only charge a little bit for your course.
That's some Art of War type stuff right there.
What?
Art of War.
Wow, what is that?
Some philosophy.
It's true though, because when I first ran my YouTube course, the very first course I ever ran, it was, what was it? $197?
No,
$297, which, for some people,
bro, we were like $297. That's a lot of money.
I was like, I'm not going to get anyone to pay me $300. Got 140 people, was slaving away for months and months and months. Helping these people, which I love doing. I was obsessed with it, because I was I can finally make money helping people. But the thing is I didn't really value my time. So isn't that the whole reason why you're trying to run an online course business? Because you want to value your time.
Yeah.
You want to get off the influencer hamster wheel of waiting for brands to contact you, or waiting to grow a big audience, whatever it is. You want to get off that. So why are you still, and this is me talking to myself back in the day, why are you still trading your time for money?
Yeah. I mean, so you spend 8 hours a day influencing. I'm just making this up. Okay.
Yeah.
So you spend 8 hours a day influencing, whether that's filming and then creating and then Instagram and then DMing and then brand deals and whatever. So you spend 8 hours a day doing that. And you're like, God, I need more time. I need to make more time or make more money for my time. So you start your online course, and you do everything yourself, and you don't hire any help, and you don't get any coaching, and you don't drip feed, you don't do all the stuff they were talking about, and you're still working 8 hours a day.
Yeah. So
and although you may be making more money, you're still doing 8 hours a day. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So you either need to be greatly charged for that 8 hours, or you get your time back.
Yeah. And I think a lot of people, they'll tell me, not a lot, but there are some people that'll be like, well, Haley, courses aren't passive because you still have to work with students. I get this objection all the time. well, Haley, you still have to coach people. So it's not passive. What you're saying is not true. But you have to quickly, if you want to make rapid changes with your income and your income streams, you have to quickly pivot. So I'm not saying it's going to be passive right away. If you have a small audience, you can't hire someone to help coach. Like that's 99% of everybody, even if you are a large influencer. Look quickly into the future. Like how fast can I hire or how fast can I make this passive? Because it's not going to be passive right out the gate. But my mistake was not looking to do that sooner and undervaluing my time.
Yeah. And it not just even the time was undervalued, but even like the expertise was undervalued.
Yeah.
And one of the things that we had to think about in terms of like valuing our time and charging more was that we had to think about how we would buy things.
Yes.
We had to change the way that we thought about investment. And this kind of goes back to the last episode that we had all about mindset. But because we didn't want to spend the money, because we, were
never
scared,
hired a coach.
we never hired a coach because we didn't value our time, because we didn't think that paying, I'm just going to make this up, paying $2,000 for a day's worth of coaching would be worth it. We didn't want to charge that.
Yeah.
So we undersold what we thought our first YouTube coaching program or, a course would be worth. And we like greatly undersold it.
Yeah. And there's this phrase that people say in the entrepreneur world. It's basically people sell the way they buy and buy the way they sell. So
look,
that's
I
kind
still
of
get cross-eyed thinking about that.
It makes total sense. I love the phrase.
No, hearing it. Yeah.
Oh yeah, it is confusing. But when you say it like, at least 5 times, you'll understand that if you want to change your identity, and you're going to have to do that in order to have success, relating back to the last podcast episode, then you're going to have to value your time, and you're going to have to be willing to take risks and invest, because that is what a successful person does. They're not scared. They're not coupon clipping. They're not doing those types of things that are trying to save a buck. They are willing to do whatever it takes to take the shortest path towards success. And that is learning from someone that has done it before. And that is also valuing your time.
Yeah. So when you say people sell the way they buy, I mean, we'll try to think about it in more of like a non-course version, but like if I'm willing to spend $200 on headphones, then I would think that other people are willing to spend $200 on headphones. So I'd be comfortable at selling headphones for $200. But if I'm not willing to spend $200 on headphones and I'm only going to buy $10 headphones, then I don't believe anyone else is going to spend $200 because I don't buy that way.
Yes.
So if I don't buy headphones for $200, why am I going to sell it for $200? So it's the same thing with your coaching and with your online programs. If I'm not going to invest in a $5,000 program or $10,000 program, why do I think that I should, I won't have the power, I won't have the mindset to sell a $5,000 or $10,000 program.
Yeah.
And that's the whole people buy the way they sell, or they sell the way that they buy. So really, to just wrap it up, I mean, we've got a lot more mistakes that are there.
Oh, yeah.
And if you guys want to you could send us DMs, you can leave a comment. If you're watching this on YouTube, leave a comment in the comments and ask us, other things. And we're more than happy to talk about more of the mistakes that we've made. But we feel like those mistakes were kind of the biggest ones because it saves time. It talks about time. It talks about money. It talks about mindset. And if we didn't make those mistakes, obviously we wouldn't be where we were. But if we could go back in time and yell at ourselves, we probably would, right?
Yeah, we still make mistakes. Everybody does. And
Yeah.
I truly think that just making mistakes and, like I tell my students, falling on your face and getting up super fast. So making a ton of mistakes, not being afraid of failure, not being afraid of making mistakes, but just making decisions like at a really rapid pace.
Yeah.
It is going to teach you what not to do way faster. So people sit on their ideas of their course ideas or how much they should charge, or sit on their sales page, or sit on just ideas in general. And they're sitting on them for years. You got to sit on them, give yourself a day, in my opinion. And that's kind of what we adopt, that mindset now.
Yeah.
Fail fast, do it all fast, and just make a lot of mistakes, and you'll learn what not to do.
So I want to stop you guys from making a mistake right now. Okay. So if you're thinking that you want to be able to start an online program, you want to sell an online course,
Doug, really
Haley
going
hates
there.
the cringy pinches that are there. But seriously, don't make the mistake. Don't think oh, maybe I don't have it. Just go to influencercourseaccelerator.com, get on the wait list. We can walk you through whether you have an offer or whether you don't. Okay. It can happen. So don't make the mistake that we made of being oh, maybe we're worth it. Maybe we're not worth it. You are worth it.
Yeah.
You can do it. So make it happen. And with that, I think that's all that we have for today.
Yeah, but definitely leave us a review if you guys like our podcast. If you have any, ideas for future podcast episodes, we'd love to hear about them. I know the last one with the mindset, someone asked me to do one on mindset because they're I don't even think I can do anything. So like, I don't even like, I like your stuff, but I just have low self-esteem. So we did a podcast on that and all about that. So let us know what you guys want to hear next. And yeah,
I think that's all that we have. So we'll see you guys next time.
Bye guys.